Good morning, and thanks so much for tuning into the Trade Setup. I'm Neeraj Shah. It's Friday, and it's a busy Friday. Much unlike yesterday, the bunch of stocks which are in news, which will be movers, and lots of news flow as well. So let's start with the global news flow. US senators have struck a deal for swift passage of the bill to avoid the US default. Not a surprise, but it's news, so I'm mentioning it. Global investors have zeroed in on China local debt blow up as the top risk in Asia. And this is a serious concern as per the article that I read on Bloomberg. Uh, quite, quite, uh, quite some distress out there, and that might have an impact on what happens in the Asian region. Remember, if China has a problem, it's not that the other markets, including India, will not have one. So uh, that is something to be watched out for. Apple CEO sees India as the tipping point in the China as the China pivot quickens, and while they're deepening the relationship in China as well, it just shows that there is life beyond China, and Apple is looking at India very, very actively. Interestingly, there was also this announcement by Foxconn, right, wherein I think Foxconn is saying that they plan to begin iPhone manufacturing in the Indian southern state of Karnataka by April 2024, as per Reuters. And the Reuters is citing the state government, by the way. Oil is heading for the weekly loss. The OPEC plus meet could deepen cuts as China's faltering PMI signals trouble for oil demand. This weekend would be important to see whether OPEC plus and what's the kind of whether OPEC plus induces cuts and what are the kind of cuts that OPEC plus meeting brings out. So I think Monday oil will be a key element. I would suspect that looking at the demand faltering, and they would want to hold some bit of stability in price, and there will be some price-led moves taken. But hey, it's OPEC plus. You don't know what will happen. Let's not preempt it. Well, what you do know is that the U.S. markets did well. They ended Thursday well, and Friday futures are looking strong. So the cues are positive. I would reckon that the SGX Nifty should be showing some bit of optimism, maybe a third of a percent or thereabouts, 0.42%. So you're looking at a steady start. That's exactly the right term, steady start in the session today. So what's the trade setup? While the Nifty's come off a little bit, the broader markets have continued to outperform. Even in yesterday's session, while the Nifty and the Bank Nifty were a bit sedate, the small cap index, if I'm not wrong, or the mid cap, one of the two was up about 1%. So the broader markets continue to do well. It is the large cap indices that have a problem. BFSI, largely the problem. Why everything is skittish, and which is why BFSI itself is skittish. But I would reckon it has the potency to outperform here on, because frankly, the earnings momentum in BFSI is still the strongest. So that is to be kept in mind. Yesterday, of course, because of Kotak Bank coming off, also there was a bit of pressure. I think that will get negated. That will not be there today because Kotak Bank is now back to what it was. Wednesday it went up, Thursday it came off, and now it's back to normalcy. FMCG stocks have outperformed Nifty in 2023 just far. I was seeing yesterday, I think the BSE FMCG index is up some 16% versus the Nifty, low single digits. So there's been a massive outperformance by FMCG YTD, but can it do more? Now, why I say that it is still a possibility is because of this lovely piece of anecdotal research by MK Alternative Research. They've analyzed the 11-year data, and based on 11-year data, they say that FMCG stock returns for the 2 months of June, July, the start of the monsoon season, they haven't used the term indicate optimism, but it is indicating optimism. Now, why? Look at this. Dabur has given positive returns in each of the last 11 years for this 2-month period of June and July. Stocks like HUL, Marico, GCPL, and Tata Consumer, virtually the FMCG space, save for one or two stocks, gave negative returns only during the El Nino years, 2013 and 19. We don't know if this is an El Nino period as well. In all probability, it is not. And therefore, for FMCG, by and large, June and July should be a good month from a stock return perspective, independent of what happens to the fundamentals. The stock return perspective historically has been strong. And can it happen again? Now, I'll be really interested in seeing what happens on the 1st of August on trade setup here, when we'll analyze what Dabur has done, because Dabur in each of the 11 years has given positive returns as per MK's research. Now, excuse me, I haven't verified it, but MK is a responsible house, so I trust them implicitly. This is the data. So I thought it was interesting and important to bring here. Now, the stocks to watch in the session today. I suspect InfoEdge will have a soft start or a weak start today. A wholly owned subsidiary of the company made an investment and a loan of 288 crores in an investee company, and that stands impaired And that is a problem for InfoEdge today. 288 crores relative to the size of InfoEdge's investments, maybe not big, but 300 crores is not chop change. And therefore, I would reckon that InfoEdge could have a weak start in the session today. Most certainly, I would suspect that InfoEdge will have a weak start today. Remember, the stock was also up about 3% in trade yesterday. There's a bit of an issue here. Interglobe Aviation and SpiceJet. Now I'm a bit undecided about what happens here because whether prices come off or no. But for the minister to come out and say that India will ask airlines to keep fares in check after the Go Air crisis is quite something. Jyotiradityya Scindia was saying this apparently the Times Network India Economic Conclave. So watch out for Indigo and SpiceJet. If they react negatively, you know why that is happening. Adani Enterprises, NSE and BSE have removed Adani Enterprises from the short-term surveillance starting June 2nd. The stock was put under the short-term ASM on May 25th. Now, could Adani Enterprises react? Maybe it could. Standard disclaimer, Adani Enterprises through AMG Media Networks holds 49% stake in Quintillion Business Media, which is the owner of BQ Prime, on which you are watching this trade setup. Then Coal India is an interesting one. The stock, remember, went up day before, came down yesterday because of the OFS announcement. Now the OFS HNI investor portion or Insti investor portion gets subscribed by 346%, so much higher demand. And the May production has risen to a record high of 60 million tons, which is a 9.5% YOY growth. So there's some traction in Coal India for sure, I would suspect. Remains a stock to watch. Aditya Birla Capital should induce some confidence for investors. The preferential issue to promoters or founders at 165 rupees a share. Now, the only thing is, viewers, doesn't mean that founders are always right, but there is some merit that the founders are seeing in a preferential issue at 165 when the current price is 171. So a bit of a confidence inducing measure for sure. Raises funds as well. So all of that should be positive. I would suspect that Aditya Birla Capital could do well. Actually, a couple of very smart investors are constructive on this business, but they were constructive even at 190. From there, the stock has come off quite a bit, has languished a little bit as well. So as they say, never follow an investor blindly, but similarly, never follow a promoter blindly. But this is a confidence inducing measure for sure. I would suspect that Aditya Birla Capital could have a bit of a reaction. Let's wait and watch. Then MOIL, the May manganese ore sales have risen 72%. That could augur well for manganese ore. No, MOIL. So look out for MOIL. And then auto sales, the ones that came out post-market hours, this is the data. Now, relative to what was estimated, Hero is largely in line. On that base, 600 units is not a miss, so it's in line. TVS on a heightened base of 324,500 has outperformed even more. So 330,609 is the kind of performance that TVS Motors has done, which is actually pretty strong, right? So TVS was anticipated to show 7.1% growth at 324. I would reckon that with this, they've done nearly a 10% growth. So that's a strong month of May for TVS Motors. Eicher Motors at 76,000 was a 19% growth. They've come in at 77,461. So that's northwards of 20% growth, which is very, very strong. And Tata Motors at 72,600 was a downtick of 4.7%. With this 74,973, nearly 75,000, Tata Motors virtually erases any kind of slowdown in the month of May relative to the month of May last year. So mostly all positive, and which is actually not bad news for the auto stocks as well in the session today. And then in terms of brokerage notes, I thought the one that stood out for me was Jefferies on Bajaj Finance for two reasons. They have an investor conference and Rajiv Jain spoke at that. So Jefferies as a buy, the target price has been raised to 8310 from 7280. The amazing part, the key part from a Jeffrey or Bajaj Finance shareholder perspective would be that Rajiv Jain is stating that he's still responsible at BAF, even if his role evolves. Now, there's been this constant chatter of what happens to Bajaj Finance if Rajiv Jain moves on. They're citing that he's 53 years old currently, as per what he said, and therefore he still has some years left at Bajaj Finance. So that is one telling point. Then Jefferies sees Bajaj Finance delivering a healthy 27% CAGR in loans. The loan CAGR will support a 26% CAGR in earnings over FY23 to 26 and ROE of 25%. And they raise earnings a tad bit to factor a fall in funding costs, improve NIMs in FY25 and 26. So net optimism, very tall uptick in in uh, the target price by Jeffries. The stock is circa the earlier target price, right? I mean, I think Bajaj Finance must be trading at around 7,000. Let me quickly pull it up. Yeah, 7,036 is where Bajaj Finance is trading. So the stock is around their earlier target price. Now they're saying that the upside is northwards of 15-16%, right? 7,000 currently, 8,200 or 300. What is the target? So that's the target. So that's nearly a 15, 16, 17% upside, or 18% upside that they see from the current market price. So interesting note from Jeffries on Bajaj Finance. So those are a few names to watch out for, a few things to watch out for. Largely a bit of optimism today because the US markets did well and the futures are doing okay. There's a bit of optimism in the air. Let's see if India rides that after 2 days of a bit of a pullback that we've seen in recent times, in the last 2 days, that is. But thank you so much for tuning into the trade setup. Again, an interesting set of conversations. Is a conversation with Sanjay Kapoor, of chairman of Sona Comstar, and also a leading personnel at ACMA, and therefore what he thinks of the auto component space as well as Sona Comstar's own individual business prospects would be interesting, and a clutch of other trading conversations lined up during the course of the day. You might want to tune in for some of those. Trading, like I said, trade talk with Saurabh Jain as well as Kunal Shah of LKP, and Bikramjit Singh of Lemon Tree Hotels at 12 p.m. talk about their numbers. Shashank Srivastava of Maruti at 1:30 p.m. to talk about their auto sales numbers. And Insight, well, the two conversations on Insight on real estate, but this one is slightly different. Talks about the gross fixed capital formation and what could happen to the space at large. So Vinod Karki of ICICI Securities and me in conversation with Irfan Razak, Chairman and MD of the Prestige Group, to talk about how long and how deep could this real estate cycle be. You might want to tune in for that conversation. And thank you so much for tuning into the trade setup today.